Hello, Mark. Good to see you for yet another episode of your wonderful podcast, may I say. It's certainly a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you to discuss anything that you want to talk about, though we do have a plan. And,
No, thanks. Thanks for having me, Kevin. And yeah,
and everybody can check out your everything you're sharing online, your Substack, your podcast, your newsletter, your everything, the social media posts. Go to markcharrington.ca. And again, my name is Kevin. I'm one of Mark's volunteers, and I help out kind of on the technology side of things. So happy to be here. So
no, and thanks for your help, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
you say that all the time, and I believe you. Um, in this episode, let's talk about the new proposed. I think is the stage that we're at.
No. My understanding is it's been passed,
Oh, okay.
but it's been going through city council for a couple of years. But it's basically update the bylaws and deal with some of the issues about
Public. It's called the public spaces bylaw, to my understanding.
Yeah.
And it's a consolidation of older bylaws into a brand new, kind of all-encompassing bylaw. And they've had their discussions, and they had their people going up to speak to city council and all the rest of it, the whole process. And it involves changes to fines for open drug use, panhandling and sleeping outside would now be against regulations against law. The business community's perspective, and then there was criticism from advocacy groups in terms of the details of this. So on the CBC podcast I listened to in preparation for this, which I sent you, and I created a transcript, and that was kind of my research.
I didn't listen to it. Sorry.
Got it. They really emphasized, as well as the couple experts they talked to really emphasized, and I'm sure you would have emphasized if you had been invited to. The fines, I don't say it's useless, but if people can't pay it, they end up in jail anyway. So, and the majority of the people who are houseless, who are in these situations, can't afford the $250, never mind the $25 to kind of get out to pay that in order to continue appreciating the freedom that they have without spending a night in jail or something. So maybe I'll let you take the floor and say what you want to say about this.
Sure. Just keep this really focused. Is that I think city council did a fair job balancing out all the interests of business, of human rights, and trying to make our streets safer and more welcoming to everybody. But I think there's still some fundamental flaws with this. And it's maybe not so much with the bylaws, it's with the hard reality is that we have a serious homelessness issue. And, people, when they don't have anywhere to live, to sleep, to relax, to socialize, to cook, to go to the washroom, congregate in their own communities out on the streets. Thus, we get the situations like the encampments and that. And how we've been dealing with this is by throwing money into these shelters. Hope Mission, Mustard Seed is two examples of these big, huge common room sort of shelters where, men and women sleep in the same room with a dividing line, and they share bunk beds. Well, no one wants that arrangement. And what compounds this is at like 8:30 in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, they expunge everybody out on the street, and you're not allowed back in until nighttime. So we've reacted to this huge issue, this huge social issue that we've made by lack of proper supportive housing and social housing. And we're becoming punitive about this. So it's like, it's really, to me, disturbing that we're cracking down on our most vulnerable, and whether it's $25 or $10, it might as well be $10 million, because the vast majority of the people that are going to get fined won't be able to afford this. And haven't read the act itself, but in prior, at least prior incidences where you have an unpaid fine, you're not able to get your government ID, and you cut back from other programs until those fines are paid. So I'm glad we modernized our bylaws. I can skateboard now on sidewalks, and you know, they've opened it up that way, and they've sort of entrenched the the right to protest and freedom of speech. But we've used the hammer to hammer on people that have nowhere to live, have no resources, even if and have no means to avoid the situations that they're in. So if you're homeless and you have nowhere to live and no one wants you during the day, what do you do? And now if you're on a street corner or you're laying down on a park bench, you can get fined. Well, that's not doing anybody any good. And
Yeah, those aren't real solutions.
no, I think what we should be doing is we should be looking at developing drop-in centers that are not police friendly, so no police allowed, which is focused on, I shouldn't say no police, but again, you have a group of people that are very wary of police, have been victimized by police. So we want to develop a center that wouldn't be sort of where people could feel safe and not be under the watchful eye of the law. So good old youth drop-in center that we used to have. iHuman, we had one. The Yes used to be a drop-in center in Edmonton. So we need an adult version of that. We had the Boyle Street Community Center, but Kate's bought that out and pushed them and they're building something new. I don't know what it's going to look like. But there's nowhere for these people to go. They have our public libraries. But again, there's no napping allowed. There's supposed to be no loitering. And again, you're not even supposed to be on the bus more than 90 minutes or something. So I think it's a lot of window dressing, and it just gives opportunities for police and peace officers to harass our huge demographic. It's a huge segment of our population, Kevin, and that's our most vulnerable.
I certainly got that impression in terms of the lack of clarity as far as, because one thing that was mentioned on the podcast is it's going to be up to individual officer, I suppose, discretion as to how they approach each individual in terms of what this, what they're violating as far as this consolidated bylaw is concerned.
And the thing with that is that, so the peace officers are going to be focused on trying to find resolutions without fining. But the fact of the matter is, when you have nowhere to stay, when you have nowhere to live, when you have nowhere to eat, where you have nowhere to go to the washroom, where you have nowhere to dress, where you have nowhere to feel that you have any sort of dignity, you're left with what we have, and that's being on street corners and in stairwells and things like that. So, this is it's just parrot talking, to be honest. For the
city, the CBC, well, it turned into a podcast, but anyway, it was on the radio, I assume, where the city council was asked, like, as far as these concerns, like existing supports and, what can we do to, rather than finding people and so forth without real solutions. And they effectively passed the buck as far as I could tell in that conversation of, well, the province is responsible for housing and that kind of line of thought.
Well, they're right on that. I mean, the city is in no financial shape. I mean, the city isn't supposed to provide the infrastructure and supports our province is supposed to. So, and our province has been dumping down onto our city. So, yeah, I mean, just push back a bit on that. I think it is the province's responsibility, not so much the city. And the city's caught in the middle. Well, they're trying to make soup out of garbage scraps.
Well, my quick perspective, if I may, for whatever it happens to be worth. to your the exact point you just made, where the city council is trying to do this consolidated bylaw to enact these measures to deal with the situation, I suppose, in this way, though they're not real solutions, as you and I have seemed to agree on. But I'm not sure the exact context of what the reporter was asking, but for certain councillors to basically say, well, housing is the province's responsibility, healthcare is the province's responsibility, and so on, where the province seems to be, to put it diplomatically, falling short in those areas. So for the city to come around and do this, knowing that the proper supports aren't being offered, never mind bolstered, to help these people, that just seems harmful to me. But two quotes that I wanted to share with you, if I may. One is from Heather Thompson, the Vice President of Economic Engagement at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. She spoke in favor of the public spaces bylaw, saying, and I quote, "The intent is to create safer and more functional public spaces for everyone, including vulnerable populations." And that brings me to the next one here. Quote from Rochelle, I think is how you say her name, Gladue, Vice President of the Social Workers Association of Alberta. This is in the same podcast. Um, Much of the bylaw was focused on effectively banning homeless people from public spaces so that the rich and affluent business owners do not have to be reminded of their simple existence.
Yeah, and it's not going to work, Kevin, because you can't ban people. You can, like, I suppose you can throw a piece of paper in their face and give them a $25 fine. It's not going to be paid for. They're going to be back at the same corner, and we're going to be spending a lot of money on enforcement, which we have. I think when we're hiring 300 more police officers. What we need to do, and what we should be doing, is developing drop-in centers, uh, hubs that aren't there to point and click people, but hubs there that are to walk with these people, right? Real tangible services like hot showers, a place to sleep, and bathroom to use, a wardrobe of donated clothing to that's sort of the temporary things that we should be looking at. And while we have shovels in the ground and we're building, social housing. I don't like using affordable housing because it seems a bit too soft in what we really need, which is housing for people that have no means and will never have any means.
Yeah, affordable housing is a buzzword. I'm not saying anything that has meaningful effect on the state of housing in that regard.
Yeah.
In terms of, for example, one example is people, I think you said this, sleeping on park benches or what have you, where they have nowhere else to go. The bylaw continues to prohibit sleeping outdoors. What options I'm asking you, what options do people have at this point when the shelters are full or feel unsafe when, this bylaw could be in effect?
Well, people are going to be breaking the bylaw. They're going to be getting paper shoved in their faces, and they're not going to be paying these fines. And it's just going to be this stupid circus that we continue to go down. We're not looking at innovative things. We're not looking at best practices. We're looking at keeping the spit off our sidewalks and the garbage in our garbage cans. And the garbage cans include places like Holt Mission and the Mustard Seed, where we can keep these stains in our community out of sight and out of mind. I think it's disgusting. And, but again, I think the city is doing what they can only do. And that it's the province who needs to come to the table and actually invest in our social safety net within, not only Edmonton and Calgary, but smaller communities in our province are dealing with the same situation. So
yeah,
but
okay.
yeah.
So the city says officers will focus on education before issuing fines.
Yeah, well, again, I just, I don't want to beat a horse to,
No, I just
but
it's still
and I
good to
just
know.
want to, and
Yeah,
kind of wrapping this up is again, he- he- these people are ignorant. They're 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 smarter than you and I, and many of the peace officers give them, and they certainly have life experiences. And to educate people that have nowhere to live, nowhere to go, no means to house themselves or feed themselves or bathe themselves, educate them on what, you know, don't stand here, go stand there, or else I'll give you a $25 ticket. So anyways,
yeah.
uh,
Okay, I'll wrap this up here. Do you believe this bylaw actually? I know that I always want to get your perspective. Forgive me if I'm. Do you believe this bylaw is actually addressing the root issues of homelessness and addiction in Edmonton?
no, he doesn't need any explanation. We've talked about the last 15 minutes. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Got it. All right, last one on this. What is or an example of a concrete policy change that would actually help vulnerable people rather than penalizing them in these situations?
I think they should have had instead of just for an example, instead of having a public ban on sleeping outdoors, I would have had you know, safe zones, harm reduction zones. I know the encampments was a terrible sort of situation for many people, including the people that are houseless. But the fact of the matter is that when you have nowhere to go, these shanty towns and these tent cities start appearing. So instead of ignoring the cause of this, which we are doing, and not building social housing, as an interim step, we should have certain areas where we allow people to sleep. And within those boundaries, have social workers, have the health nurses, have public washrooms, have um, sanitation, tables, and healthy food, and provide within that space opportunities and support to work with animals farm. That's just an example. So yeah, just banning everybody from sleeping anywhere is silly. I can guarantee you, if my son is camping outside our backyard with a tent in the moon, he's in no risk of a peace officer poking their heads over a fence and ticketing them. But when it comes to a homeless, person who has no means, he or she is probably looking at a $25 fine.
That they can't pay. And the cycle continues. That, and believe it or not, that's about 20 minutes.
And you know what? I'll go further
Okay.
and is don't pay. I would tell these people don't pay it. Refuse to pay it.
Okay.
Refuse to cooperate with the system, and and show it as a protest. Don't pay it.
Yeah. And actually, on that note, just quickly, since it's a consolidated bylaw, it doesn't just, we're not just talking about houseless people and the vulnerable. There's also different changes in terms of protesting, like mass gatherings, if you will, and which is covered under freedom of speech and etc. So different things related to that. We're not just talking about, just to be clear, where it's just the vulnerable that are being affected by these changes in the public spaces bylaw. Um, and people can check out again, I'll link to the podcast, and people can look that up if they wish to, but it is more than that. So I just wanted to point it out. Um, okay. So as I said, that's about 20 minutes. We aim for about 15, 20 minutes, though sometimes, we get into passionate topics. And of course, Mark has many things to say, given his experience and insight and perspective, helping vulnerable people who are affected by these changes in these situations. And that's not to minimize it whatsoever. It's incredibly important and incredibly serious work. And we're very grateful that you do it, Mark. Um, Thank you everybody for watching and listening to this episode of the Mark Charrington podcast. Again, my name is Kevin. I'm one of Mark's volunteers. I kind of help with the technology side of things. And of course, you know Mark. He can be found at markcharrington.ca, spelled the way it sounds, I guess. But in any case, it's on his social media, and that's kind of a link tree of everywhere online that you can find.
Well, if you're watching this, you probably found me.
Chances are, but I gotta say it.
Yeah.
It's because honestly, sometimes there's been a couple times where I have to go to that link tree list, and oh geez, okay, I gotta add this or repeat this, or oh yeah, right, there's this other I forgot Mark does this, or this certain thing, or so it's good to check that out. It's kind of a one-stop shop for the social media, for the website, the newsletter, the Substack, the everything that you do online. Um, please, everybody, check that out. And we don't say it enough, but we'll say it here. Please considering supporting Mark's work. $5 a month, whatever you can afford, one-time donation. Go to the Coalition for Justice and Human Rights website, which I'll link to in the description, and give what you can, because Mark's work solely depends on your support. So there you go. I said it for you, Mark. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.